First, I would like to say, hello, my growers and friends. You know, on Instagram, they like to call people followers. I don't like the whole followers thing. It kind of sounds like a cult, so I like to say my growers and friends. My name is Braylon Brown. I am Urban Gardening with Gray, and I'm here to talk to you today about plant cloning. Now, a little bit about me. I am a Texas Master Gardener specializing in plant education and soil health. I answer your questions online. There are a lot of influencers out there that put out, plant material. I make sure I answer every single question because as a master gardener, that's what our role is. A lot of times people think that being a master gardener makes us a Jedi master or something. No, I don't know every plant in the world, but I use science to help you troubleshoot yours, whether it's pest control, whether it's soil related, whatever. And it doesn't matter what you're growing, I can help you grow. So I'm an urban gardener, social media presence. A lot of people call me the Mr. Rogers or the Bob Ross of gardening, just because I come from a peaceful and positive place. And then finally, the reason why I'm here is that I'm also affiliated with Andre the Farmer, and we have an online community called Better Gardener. Now, Better Gardener is an online community that we service the entire world. We have people all the way from as far as Mozambique to Australia and so forth, all coming together, and we share our plant knowledge together. This is Andre just talking about our organization.
Hey guys, Andre the Farmer here, and I just wanted to let you guys know about a great community that we've built at school.com. It's called Better Gardener. Me and Graylin have put together an amazing community.
Thank you. The calls are my absolute favorite part of this site. I mean, I love this site in general, but the calls I absolutely look forward to. And I tell my whole house, I'm like, hey guys, I got a call at 7. If you need me, wait.
We have dozens of people there that are like friends, like family.
I had a hard week, so I was looking forward to all my gardening classes this week. I'm like, where is Sunday? Where is Sunday? And then I'm like, where is Wednesday? Where is Wednesday? Oh, it's something about these classes are so relaxing.
Any questions that you have, you can get answered there.
This is truly an inspiration because since I've been on the phone with you all, I started pruning my cherry tree because I brought that to your attention earlier, Andre, like it was potted from the plant into the ground. And I was just like, what's going on?
Well, I'm not just sort of educating people, I'm also learning, but at the same time, I'm building relationships and making new friends.
Well, without much further ado, let's talk about plant cloning. So, some of you bought some plants today. Guess what? Most of those plants, you can't hear? Oh, you got it? Okay. Most of those plants can be cloned. The beautiful thing about like monsteras, high constellations, albos, all these beautiful plants you can clone them and actually have more of them. Because one plant is fun, but 2 or more is even better, right? So let's get into it. Now, first of all, show of hands. Who has actually heard of plant propagation? All right, we all know about some plant propagation. I love it. Well, then you know that there's 2 ways of propagating. You can propagate through sexual propagation and asexual propagation. Sexual propagation is going to be essentially taking a seed and through the fertilization process, growing and germinating that seed to create a genetic variant of the original plant. So you have the mother plant and she creates an offspring, right? It's going to be slightly different than the original. So that's why a lot of times we talk about, like, for instance, who has ever tried to do the whole avocado thing? When you take an avocado and take an avocado, you're trying to grow it, right? The thing they don't tell you about these plant hacks is an avocado takes 15 years before it will fruit. So yeah, you can grow it, you can do it, unless you want to wait 15 years to eat an avocado. I recommend actually asexual propagation. So asexual propagation is going to be the plant cutting or grafting. That's what we're talking about. So we talked about sexual propagation, cleared up some myths about that. Asexual creates a clone. So you take a parent plant and you're making a genetic clone, a copy. And now I know we're talking about our ornamental plants, but it can also work with our garden as well. So, for instance, let's say you have a tomato variety that you really like for instance, like a Black Beauty or a Pink Girl hybrid. and you want more of that plant. Well, yeah, you can grow them from seed, but each one is going to be slightly different. But if you actually prune off at different nodes of the plant, you can make more of that variety, so you can be guaranteed to get that same fruit every single time. That's the same way that any orchard or any tree farm, that's the way they're going to propagate their plants, so that they make sure that they get that same Macintosh apple every single time. Make sense? Right. So, as far as ornamentals, there is a cornucopia of ornamental plants that can be propagated. Pothos, philodendrons, of course. Snake plants are actually really easy. Spire plants, monstera, English ivies, and even begonias. I actually have a friend down at Eclectic Jungle. She has a bunch of begonias. You can take those begonias, flip them, place them in water, and then you have more. Also, our herbaceous plants. So, our rosemary. Now, if any of you are actually into growing food outside, I highly recommend rosemary around your garden. It is a great pest deterrent. It essentially hides the plants from your pests. Rosemary, basil, your oregano, sage, thyme, mint, lavender, all can be propagated through cuttings and in water. Fruit cloning. You can also deal with your grapevines. Now, that comes with a caveat. Your grapevines do need to be your greener cuttings. The woody cuttings are a little bit harder. It's a little bit higher failure rate. Also, your blackberries, raspberries, blueberries. We love blackberries. My kids love blueberries, so we grow them all throughout Dallas, where I'm from. Dragon fruit, passion fruit, so forth. So the possibilities are endless. And I know it's hard to see this picture up here, but this is actually a tomato propagation. I pruned it off the mother plant, placed it in a bottle of water, and that's all roots growing right there. So it's just that easy. All right. Now, with that being said, some trees can be cloned just through cutting. But it's one of those things I like to say, it's a higher success rate on it. It can be a higher failure rate, so it can be a little bit of a challenge. When it comes to cloning of trees, the best way to do that is with grafting. Now, my partner, Andre the farmer, is not here. He didn't get to come out to Houston. He's going to be out in Dallas with me. But he actually does a whole portion of this class where he teaches you how to graft an avocado so that you get fruit in 1 year. So grafting is a better way of cloning your trees. But without much further ado, let's take a look at a propagation plant. Now, this plant that I'm about to show you up here on stage, this was all started from a single 8-inch cutting at my home a year ago. This is all a year. And she's all the way over here. That's from 1 year. So this is what we're going to use. Now, when it comes to your materials for doing your propagations, first thing you're going to need is make sure you have a healthy plant. For this example, I'm using a Pothos, but any of those plants listed before, sorry, those drums are just killing me over here. But make sure you have a healthy parent plant. You don't want to start with anything that has any kind of disease in it, because essentially, one, you're going to have a high failure rate, and then two, you're just spreading plant disease around. Then next you need clean, sharp scissors or pruners. So, these pruners are not something special that I spent $40, $50 on. These are from the Dollar Tree for $1.25. But this, notice on everybody's table, you notice you all have this bottle here. The way I keep all of my pruners, even these cheap pair of $1.25 pruners, is by using this retain spray. This is a spray, organic spray, certified organic, made from 1% oregano oil. And this is actually from my friends at retainsspray.com. They said they knew I was doing this class, and they wanted all of you to get a bottle for free. It's great to use because it's better than using like alcohol to clean your tools. Alcohol eventually will corrode the metal and you'll start to rust out. This is made from oil. It's going to lube it, and it's going to stop the spread of plant disease. Because truth be told, when you're doing any propagation, the most times you fail is because you spread disease and you haven't realized. Because, I mean, none of us have microscopes attached to our eyes, so we can't see if we're spreading that disease, but this is the best way to stop it. So these bottles are free, so I get to have my Oprah moment. You get a bottle, you get a bottle, you get a bottle. So yeah. And now when you're doing your propagations, you have choices. You can either go with a clear glass container, or you can actually put it in soil. So you can do water or you can do soil. It really just depends on what works best for you. I like doing it in water because I like to see the roots develop over time. I'm a visual person. I need to see them. So actually at my booth, when we get done here, if you come by my booth, you can see some of the propagations that I brought along with me. But you can definitely go straight into soil with no problem as well. And I'm going to tell you, soil-based propagations are actually going to grow a little bit better because you're going to get a better root system. Because when those roots are starting to push through those nodes, you got to have some kind of physical resistance. And with that soil creating that physical resistance, the root's going to be stronger. Strong roots mean healthy plants. Now you can still do it in water with no problems, but since they don't have any physical resistance, the roots are going to be a little soft. But you can do either way, whichever works best for you, whichever growing style you choose. Now I have optional that you can use a rooting hormone. It's not mandatory. Most of my propagations, I don't use any rooting hormones at all. The rooting hormone is really cheap. You can buy it for about $5. It'll give you a little bit better success rate, but I've been doing it for years, so I just honestly cut them, throw them in some tap water, and keep on moving. And like I said, you can also use the well-draining potting soil if you choose to go in the soil too. All right, so when we're doing our propagations, let's see if we can switch here. Matthew, do you mind coming up and switching our screen for us for a moment? Oh, there we go. Look at that technology. It's a wonder, isn't it? Now, I don't know if any of y'all are old school like me. I used to be a teacher, and I used to use the overhead projectors in my classroom. It reminds me of those days. All right, so this is our pothos here, and like I told you guys, this has been growing for a year from a single propagation. The first thing you're going to look for in your propagation is you want to have a nice long stalk. One is going to have at least about 3 to 4 good leaves on it. You're going to look for the node. That's going to be your place right here. This is where roots are going to form. Take your clean pruners, and you're just going to come down about a 1/4 inch down and make your cut. Then you take that cutting, and then you sit there and let that callus over. Because see, this cut right now, this is a wound in the plant. If you take and put this in soil, or if you take and put this in water, you can potentially create root rot, and then you lose your whole propagation. But if you allow this to callus over, it's going to harden up. Sit about 30, 45 minutes based off of this plant, the pothos. Some plants do take longer. So if we're talking about like a Monstera, Esquilito, or Deliciosa or something, you're probably looking at about a good 2-3 hours for this whole plant to callus over. Once it calluses, I can now place this in, I can now place this in water, or I can put this directly in soil. Just that simple. So, do I have any questions so far? Thoughts, questions, complaints? Yes, I have a question over here. Good.
So, are there any plants that don't need to callus over?
The question is, are there any plants that don't need to callus over? No, I'm going to say pretty much any plant that you're making a cutting, you're making a fresh wound into the plant, it's going to need some time to callus over. They do vary depending on the plant type. Great question. Thank you. All right. Yes, ma'am. Let me get to you here. That's a good question. So the question is, the leaf right next to the node, do we clip that or do we keep that? Honestly, it depends on your choice. So say for instance, we're taking this propagation and we're going to put this down into something that has a really small neck. Yeah, I might clip this off because it's going to be harder to fit down in my container. But you still want to at least leave 2 to 3 leaves up at the top so it can photosynthesize properly. But yeah, you can clip it off, but it's really a preference-based thing for me. Yeah, good question, good question. Right. And now, that being said, Let's see, Matthew, can you switch us back to the presentation? Matthew is awesome. Everybody, hands for Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. And now, like I said, this plant came from my home. The mother plant, she came from Propagation at home. How would you all like a cutting of this plant? All right, well, I need a volunteer to come up and start cutting some. Come on up. Come on, I need a volunteer. Come on up. You know what? A second one too. Can I get a second volunteer? Because what we can do is we can start cutting this baby up. And you can all have propagations from my mother plant. And now I want to show you guys something right here. You see the top right here? All this? You can choose to cut that off if you want to, or you can allow that to just kind of callus over, and that will create a whole new shoot of the plant as well. All right, so here, let's see. Let's see if you can give it a shot, okay? All right. Okay. Yeah, right there. Boom. There you go. And that's a cutting right there. That's a perfect cup cut. You got 2 leaves on there, so that will, you actually got 2 nodes there, so that will both storm breeze. So if you take, now let's show you guys. So you see how we have the 2 nodes right here. If you place that in a pot or something horizontally, both of those will start roots. That's why I love the pothos plant. A lot of people kind of dismiss it like, oh, it's just a pothos. This thing can grow in just about anything. I have one growing in a 100-gallon aquarium that I have a catfish in, and it's doing fantastic. So yeah, all of those will spawn roots. All right, so if you guys, and now let's see if you want to give it a try here. I only have the 1 pair, but you know what? If we can start a system where maybe we're cutting, let's see, that's a good node right there, right here. There we go. If we can start cutting these up and passing these out to everybody, because everybody gets a part of this plant. Everybody gets a plant. So you get plants from me, you get the what is it called? The tool cleaner. Couldn't think of the name of it. Uh-oh. Let's see, what else we have in the presentation today. Now, while we're cutting up these plants and distributing them, let's talk about your cuttings. You can go 4 to 6 leaves, but honestly, 2 to 3 will get you there. You don't need a whole lot, because if you have too many leaves, the plant's going to start doing dual duty. It's going to try to do too many things at once. It's going to be trying to grow new leaves, keep those leaves alive, as well as creating new root systems. So that's why it's best to go like around a maximum about 4 leaves or so. So you don't want to put too much stress on the plant, because we've already put it under trauma by making that decision. Also, your nodes are going to be those slightly swollen areas that I just showed you on the screen here. That's what you're looking for with your plants. Unfortunately, a lady on Instagram hit me up about a month ago. She says, yeah, I have these Monstera leaves in their water, and they're just grayling. They're not forming any roots. What's going on? She sent me pictures in a DM. There was no node. And I said, unfortunately, ma'am, that Monstera is like a cut flower, slowly dying. She was like, are you serious? I was like, trust me, look, I've had my dog Stormy knock over some of my plants, and I lose some. And I'm like, I love this leaf so much. And I will put that cutting in some water just to hold on to it a little bit longer, but it is slowly dying. So without a node, it will not form new roots. So we have to make sure we have that node. All right, now we did our demonstration here. Let's see. We talked about removing the lower leaves. All right, now, once you've done your propagation, most of your plants, after you've done your propagation, you want to sit them in a bright, indirect light situation. You don't want to sit them out in the sun, because that's too much stress. Specifically with most of these plants that we're talking about today, the direct sun will scald the leaves, sun scald the leaves. You want to sit them in a bright, indirect light situation, because again, we don't want to put it under too much stress, trying to have to do too many things at once. And now, you know that you have a successful cutting if in about 7 to 14 days, you have root formation. Make sense? Now, let's say, hypothetically, since we don't have any leaves, let's go with this one. This is a much healthier branch here. This whole branch right here could probably be hacked off here. Perfect. And give it up to our volunteers. They are cutting up these props, doing amazing. I feel so successful as a teacher, because see, that's the victory for a teacher. When you show a student, they demonstrate. But going back to what we were saying, Bright indirect light is what we want. You know you're going to have a successful rooting because you will see the formation of roots. Now let's say, hey, great, I've propagated. It looks great in this water container, but now I want to take and put it into soil. What do I do there? What you want to do is you want to wait about a good, I would say a solid month, because you want at least about 2 inches of good root development before you transplant it into soil. Because again, think about it, we're putting it under more stress. So we want to make sure we have about a good 2 solid inches of roots, and then you can transplant it into your different mediums that you like. Yes, you can go with soil, or you can go with clay balls. Whatever medium you choose, you're good to go. Or you can do like my wife. She loves keeping her propagation just right there in her container, because she has it on her desk at school, and all the kids, all the students love coming up and touching it, and it's going about 3 feet long. And this is a Swiss cheese monstera we're talking about. Now, common problems that happen with our propagations. Remember, I said the first problem is usually the spreading of disease. So we make sure we clean those too. But here are some other problems. Too many leaves. If you have too many leaves, the plant is doing too much, it's doing dual duty. Just snip back some of those leaves. So try to keep it around 3 to 4. Also, stagnant water. Now, I'm in Dallas, kind of like you guys in Houston. You don't really need to worry about stagnant water because your water is hot here, right? Your water's going to evaporate out. So just replenishing the water will do just fine. But if we were in a northern climate, Corinne, down. Thank you, boo. You're a great camera woman. Sorry, my daughter's my camera woman. She started to get a little dangerous there. If you're like, let's say you're in zone 6 or zone 5, somewhere where you're not going to have as much heat, you might get some stagnant water. So every week or so, replace that water. Okay? Because when you start seeing a cloudiness in the water or green from algae, it's time to change it out because the plant's not getting anything more from it. Stems fully submerged. Oh, okay. So this happens when we get too large of a container. Let's say we get like a nice vase, and we got our 8-inch cutting there, and we just drop the whole thing down in it. Well, when the plant drops down in there, you're creating more of a rot situation. So just see if you can try to prop them up a little bit so something can kind of hang and drape on the neck. Yes, ma'am.
We need about 5 more.
We need you to show us how the master does
All right, let's see. Let me see those here. Sorry, guys, just a quick, want to switch this over? I can, So we have a nice little stem system going on here. So we're going to cut these into propagations. All right, so now, there we go. There's the go. So what we're going to do is we got a node right here. You guys can see it. It's kind of bright, but we got a node here so we can cut here. And that has 3 roots on it. So that's a good propagation right there. Not 3 roots, 3 leaves. Misspoke.
I think we need 3 more to get everyone.
3 more?
Yeah.
1. Okay, we can get 3 out of here. Yeah, we can get 3. We're going to make it work. So, that one has 2 on it here. It has some suspended leaves. We're going to cut here. We're just cutting back some of these dried out leaves and petioles. And that one has 1, 2, 3. It has about 3 or 4 nodes on it. So this one's a good one here. So that's 1, 2. How many more do you need, Matthew? I got 2 over there.
2 over there.
Uh-huh.
I think there's 3 over there.
It's looking some. So the question was, she has a plant that potentially might be a succulent that has a plethora of aerial roots coming off of. And the question was, do they need to be placed in water? Not necessarily. You can let them be. They will eventually, they're trying to find a path to the soil, and you can let them be and they'll be completely fine. Yeah, this is just if you're planning on propagation and you see a nice aerial root hanging off, like for instance, I just picked up in February from Casa Farms, I got a Monstera Esqueleto. And I saw a nice aerial root sticking off the side, like, yeah, you're about to become 2 plants. So that was planning ahead. But no, you don't necessarily have to.
But that could be a good time.
It could definitely be a good propagation. Great question. And when it comes to, I'm an ADHD gardener, so this isn't something I really plan out ahead of time. But yeah, you can easily take and propagate that. Oh, what was I gonna say? It's about the aerial roots. That's what I was gonna say. When we're talking about our aerial roots, your plants like what you're describing, your succulent, as well as like your monsteras, they like to grow out horizontally. They like to try to branch out because most of your monsteras out in the tropics, they're going to want to try to find something to climb on because they're one of those sub-canopy tree plants. So you'll have your canopy up here that's growing your big expansive leaves, but your monstera is climbing underneath it sideways. So that's why you see your aerial roots, because they're trying to find that anchor spot so that they can continue to climb up. Make sense? Good question. Any other questions? And now, it doesn't just have to be about plant propagation. Texas Master Gardener, I know a lot of different plants. I'm here to help you. So it can even be about fruit trees or vegetables. Yes, ma'am.
So, like, I'm from the Dallas area too. So
Awesome.
tomorrow I'll be going home. After this callus is over, should I keep it in like a wet towel or something?
Great question. Transportation, right? So my friend here is from Dallas as well. She's my sister. She's from Dallas. And she's going to be driving back. How do I get this cutting that we just gotten? How do I get it home? Let it callus over, of course. But yes, if you take a wet paper towel and just wrap it around where that node is, that'll be enough hydration to last for 4 or 5 hours to get back home or so. So yeah, that'll perfectly work. Or let's say you had longer travel. And let's say you hypothetically go and visit a friend that lives in Arizona. And they have a beautiful philodendron they want to give you a cutting of. Like, how I'm going to be getting on a plane, I'll be taking this back with me. It's going to be longer than 4 or 5 hours. What do? Sphagnum moss. You take many of the plant propagations that you see here, the root systems or the nodes will be wrapped in sphagnum moss. They maintain moisture really well. It's really inexpensive. You can get it from like Home Depot or Lowe's. Wrap them in some sphagnum moss, a little paper towel around them, you're perfectly fine. Good question. Good question. Keep them coming. I love this. Let's see. Back, please. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm coming to you. Yes.
So you mentioned propagation of all.
Well, like actual tissue culture.
I guess so, yeah.
So the question, I'm going to step back a little bit because I know the microphone can't pick me up if I go too far. So the question was about actual cloning or tissue cultures. Unfortunately, I don't do a lot of tissue culture just because it's very extensive work. So I don't have any. I'm the kind of person, I like to know every question before you ask it, like an attorney when he goes in the courtroom. I like to know every question you're going to ask before you can even ask it. And I don't have enough information to be proficient on cloning. But I know it is something that's really trending right now. For instance, Casa Farms, who I'm going to mention again, they have done a lot of tissue cultures with the Thai constellation. That's why you can find Thai constellations for really good prices now. Once upon a time, Thai constellation, you could only find it a single cutting for like $200 or $300, you know. So yeah, but plant cloning is definitely something worth looking into, but I don't have enough information on it. Make sense? All right. Next question. Yes.
The plan is X amount of years when you cut the you do a cutting, would this be year 0 for this one, or is it an extension?
That's a really good question. I like it. Let me get closer so you guys can still hear me. So the question was, for the mother plant has been growing for X amount of years. So this new propagation, would you consider that year 0 for this plant? Or would this be, an extension of the original mother plant? And honestly, I think that's more of a philosophical question. I'm not really sure. Because, it's like a jellyfish. We know that jellyfish, essentially, there's a species of jellyfish that essentially only clones itself. That's the way it reproduces itself. So theoretically, that makes it immortal. So we could say that same premise with our plants. When we're taking our original mother plant and we're propagating through clones, since there's no genetic deviations from it, essentially we're making immortal plants. I like that. It's like the movie The Highlander. There can be only one. That's fantastic. Thank you. Great question. Yes. All right. Next question. What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Would it make it immortal? I think that does. I think that classifies. Yes.
It has like little holes. So how do you propagate that one, or you can propagate that one?
So does have That's a good question. Let me grab it. So the question was, this vine that we have here, we don't have any foliage growing on it, but we have a lot of nodes and we have a lot of branches that we could potentially try to propagate. We would do the same exact thing. But without having foliage on it to be able to photosynthesize, it really is a gamble. And then plus, this branch was not a healthy branch, so I really wouldn't consider this one for propagation. Because I lost a lot of leaves, and this is just because, oh,
Cutting out.
oh, it's cutting out? All right, let me step back. Can you hear me okay now? All right, there we go. See, I got too far. But yeah, I wouldn't consider this a healthy branch. And you always want to start with something extremely healthy so you have a good success rate. So this one, honestly, I would probably just throw this in my compost. But theoretically, since we have the nodes here, it could be done. But I would say, maybe if we were going to play like a numbers game, right? Let's say you wanted to propagate and make 30 some odd cuttings. Maybe sit this one to the side, cut it, and just kind of monitor and see where it goes. But it really is kind of a toss-up on it. Because you got to have something for it to photosynthesize. Make sense? Good questions. Good questions. I love it. All right, let's see if we have anything else left in the presentation. I'm loving you guys' questions and feedback. Ah, yes. Root development. So let's take a root. Look at root development. Great. I don't have any root development. What's going on? Goes back to that monstera that I was telling you guys about before. You don't have any nodes in the water, you won't get root development. If you're cutting too high above the node, you won't get roots. Or let's say you're somebody like myself who propagates hundreds of plants like in a season. Maybe in a month, honestly, maybe in a month. Sometimes I don't make sure that they're all the way down submerged into the water. Or maybe the foliage is too big and you didn't realize that it didn't touch the water, or the water has evaporated out. Those are things to look for when you have a no root situation. Next, poor light conditions. Lighting is important. Remember, that's the way our plants grow, and they photosynthesize by taking and exchanging that light. If you have a poor light situation, and it's a plant that definitely needs the light, that may be another factor. Too cold water, or just a cold environment entirely. One thing we don't factor in is that we have the beauty of conditioned air. And if you have a propagation, you're sitting right underneath your vent, that could be another. That draft could be just enough so that you don't get that formation that you're looking for. So always factor your actual ambient climate around the plant when we're making our propagation. Or you've just cut something that's just entirely too small. For instance, I had a pink princess philodendron. Love this thing. My wife, I've been growing it for about 2 years now, and I cut a couple of propagations off of it. But the nodes were very close together. So I took a chance and I cut one that was about 3 inches long. It was about maybe 2 months before one single root finally formed. It did form, but it was very hard for it because you have a lot less biomass to form that root. So it makes sense. So that's why I say going for the 6 to 8 inches makes you have enough biomass to generate as much as possible. Ah, here we go. Root browning. Now this is going to happen with your propagation. Okay? Algae growth. Do you have your glass jar or your plastic jar in a windowsill? Is it getting direct sunlight? That direct sunlight can cause algae blooms. Those algae blooms will cover your roots up and eventually will start to kill off your plant. The way you remedy that is by 1, cleaning off the roots, 2, covering up or moving it to a different location so that those roots aren't getting so much direct sunlight. Also, could just be a mineral buildup from using tap water. Depending on your different infrastructure, different people have different mineral contents in their water, and that mineral buildup honestly can come from your tap water. So in those situations, let's say if it keeps happening to you, that's a situation maybe you want to go to using rainwater collection systems. Or, now I don't agree in buying additional water. Like for instance, anybody grow peace lilies? Peace lilies. They want only distilled water. I was like, I refuse to buy you special water in this house. But I will go out and get some rainwater for it. I'll put some rainwater in it, so that'll work so you don't get the mineral buildup. Also, the third and final thing is just to be old water. Been sitting there 2 or 3 weeks and you just forgot to change out the water. Change out the water, clean up the roots, and it'll jump right back for you. Yellowing of the leaves. All right, so This is a natural aging process in some of your roots. So let's say hypothetically we were talking about a tomato, right? So we got a tomato, we propagated it in water, and so that original propagation, we notice that the lower leaves starting to yellow a little bit, kind of curling a little bit. That's a natural aging process in that specific plant. But trim those leaves off. As more plant starts to develop, you will see that the rest of the plant is being healthy. But do monitor it though. Too much direct sunlight. Now, the yellowing of the leaves will also, when too much direct sunlight situation, you will start to see like a sclerosis type of tissue on the leaves. It'll look like kind of patches and it'll be kind of gray in color. That's sun skull. That means it's getting too much direct sunlight. So just back up off the sunlight, maybe pull it in the shade a little bit. Because this pothos that I was talking about right now, yes, I did have it under grow lights, but when I first propagated, it was actually sitting outside underneath my deck. So the deck is actually blocking out some of the sun, and it was just sitting out there and just living its best life. So it can go either way. Then also you can get shock from the cutting. So it's rare to get the shock, so that's why sometimes you can use a rooting hormone to kind of ease that shock. As long as you allow it to callus over before you place it in the water, you shouldn't get too much shock going on. So remember to wait that minimum time. Make sense? All right. So we were talking about this earlier. When should I transplant into soil? When you have about 2 to 3 inches of root growth, give or take your plant, but you want 2 to 3 inches of roots before you transplant into soil. Now, we use the Pothos in this example. So the blend that I would use, I blend and make all of my own soil. You know, I'm like a mad scientist when it comes to soil science. I'm looking for friability. I'm looking for crumple factor. I'm looking for moisture retention. So I make my own soil. And the recipe that I use for my Pothos is going to be 2 parts of a potting soil. Usually I'm going to go with one of my sponsors, Living Earth. Then I'm going to mix in a little bit of perlite. Now, perlite, if you're not familiar with perlite, but you're all plant people, so I know you all know what perlite is. I'm seeing a head shaking there. But it is made from volcanic glass, but it's a good way to add that aeration in your soil so that you can allow air and water to pass through. And then you can use about a half a part of cocoa coir or peat moss if you choose to. Now, I will say that there's a lot of people been talking about peat moss lately because of the way peat moss is processed. It's actually pulled up from bogs and it's not sustainably sourced. So a lot of people in the planting community have kind of gotten away from peat moss and using cocoa coir as an alternative. You choose what works best for you. No judgment here, but I just want to let you know there are alternatives available. Then after that, now as far as planting depth and spacing, that's really something more on the gardening side. Honestly, just in a single pot would be fine. For propagation the size that you have right now, I would probably, if I was to transplant this one into soil after I formed some roots, I'm talking about maybe a 3.5 inch to 4 inch pot, something really tiny. You don't want to have too much soil because when you start having one of those big pots, like, oh, hey, great, we know this thing is going to get massive, so I want a big old pot. No, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because when you have a large pot and a small plant, what's going to happen is you're going to get hand heavy. You're going to start overwatering, trying to overcompensate to wet all that soil, and that sets you up for root rot. So go small and then eventually pot up each time. And that goes with all of your plants. And now, plant propagation. Why propagation works. The benefits of water propagation are amazing because it's versatile. It's something you already have at home. You don't have to go out and get extra things. And I have propagated in literally everything I can find, from mason jars. Because it's funny, one point in time, you know, when we would have like ragu jars or something like that, my wife was like, hey, you want me to save this for you? Yeah, because I'm going to save it because, you know, I'm going to propagate inside it. Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree is a cornucopia of just things that I can grow in, and it's cheap. It's $1.25 or $1.50. I think they changed the prices. I mean, all kind of jars, anything you can think of. I've even, back in my younger college days, I used to have a lot of adult beverage glasses that I used to have, and now house plants. We talked about some of the common mistakes to avoid with your propagations, and then we talk about our success indicators. Do you guys have any following questions for me? Because that is the end of the presentation. Did you enjoy it? Oh, I have questions. All right, we're getting claps. Nice. I have a question back here. Yes. Yes.
Do you recommend adding like a liquid baby fertilizer into your water?
Ah, good question. All right, can everybody still hear me? All right, so the question was, when we're water propagating, do we need to, are we required to put any water fertilizer in it? We're dealing with something like a Pothos. No. That plant is incredibly strong, durable. I mean, we really have to respect the devil's ivy is what, nickname for it, because it can grow in any kind of condition. If we're talking about a Swiss cheese, Monstera, like a Monstera Aidensani, no, I do those with just tap water. But if we're talking about specific philodendrons that might require a little bit of nutrient, yeah, you could go with some prop drops in there. Or I know another friend of mine has some liquid fertilizers that work. Just don't go too heavy-handed with it. Make sure you follow the recommended dosage, because unfortunately when it comes to fertilizers, let's face it, we all think that a little is good, more must be great. No, that's the exact opposite. You'll actually end up shocking your plant. By adding too many fertilizers, you can actually affect its ability to uptake water and nutrients. For instance, like adding too much phosphorus to a plant. That will actually send the roots into a zinc shock, and it will actually start experiencing a zinc deficiency, and you're wondering what's going on with your plant. Well, it can no longer take up zinc because you've given it too much phosphorus. Great question. Thank you. Any other questions? No? No? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Does hydrogen peroxide really help to prevent root rot if you're propagating in water? I just randomly thought that. I don't know if it's true or not.
Good question. The question was about using hydrogen peroxide for your propagation. Will it prevent root rot? It will not prevent root rot. It can help the propagation along, though, a little bit kind of like a stimulant for it, but it will not prevent your root rot, because hydrogen peroxide, you ever notice when you buy hydrogen peroxide, what color is the container? It's like a brown, because hydrogen peroxide essentially goes inert after being exposed to sunlight for too long. So if it's in that water, it's going to be exposed to sunlight. So it's another one of those plant hacks that a lot of people are like, oh yeah, this will work. You'll never get root rot ever again. No, it'll help the plant along, but it won't foolproof it. Make sense? Good question. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Okay, this is on a curve. Like, what part do I put in the water?
I would take and put this whole thing in water. So if we take, and let's say we put it in a container. The question was, we have a curve going on this line here. What do I put in the water? I would probably, honestly, cut this off just because it's going to be awkward. And then I would place the whole thing like in a vase, just like that. And that will all form new plants. So if you'd like, I can actually cut this off for you now, or do you want to do it later? Yes, ma'am. Of course. All right, there we go. And now that can fit in your container really nice.
And it's okay to have this leaf just on the leaf.
Yeah, that leaf will be fine. Yeah, that leaf will be fine. And it might actually, depending on the size of your container, actually help hold it a little bit more secure in the net. Very welcome. Very welcome. Good questions. I love it. Oh, another one. Yes. Keep them coming, guys. Rooting hormone. Yes, I was actually talking about that earlier. So the question was, does adding a rooting hormone help? So rooting hormones can be beneficial. They can help. They can help stimulate the growth. I say it's optional because with most of the plants that we're going to propagate, like our Pothos or Monsteras and so forth, they don't really need it. You can do it. It might ease some of that shock. So yeah, you can definitely go with a rooting hormone. But your question makes me think of something else. Things that do not work. Honey. Honey is antifungal, but it is not a rooting hormone. There are no, now I can't remember the complete scientific name for rooting hormone. It's like an IBC. There are no rooting hormone properties in honey whatsoever. It is antifungal though. It can help, but it's not going to stimulate root growth. Cinnamon is another one. Again, antifungal, not a rooting hormone. So I know there's a lot of plant myths that go out there like, oh yeah, just sprinkle this in your honey, some honey and some sugar. No, put that in your coffee or your tea, because that's not going to stop your root rot situation. The only thing that's going to stop your root rot situation is you. I like to practice. Have you guys ever heard of Lao Tzu, Wu Wei? He talks about do without doing, and I apply that to gardening. When we do too much in gardening, we're the worst enemies to our plant. So we get so happy because we got a new plant and we want to show it some love. And so we're, water, oh, you need some more water. They don't need that much. Stop being so heavy-handed and you'll be perfectly fine. And also, speaking of root rot, even if you get into a situation where you suspect you might have root rot, guess what? Take that plant, that root ball, out the soil and give it a sniff test. If you start to smell that rotting smell, trust me, it's a distinctive smell. You can smell it. Guess what? You can still save that plant. Clean those roots off. Look for any black or fungusy roots and just prune them with those pruners that we talked about cleaning before. Cut those bad roots off, get it in some nice fresh soil, and you can save that plant easily. But you got to catch it early. You catch it early enough, you can save just about anything. Great question. Great question. So what else we got? We'll just enjoy hanging out with me. I love hanging out with y'all. We got any cool plants in the audience? What did we find there? Oh, we got a whole cart over there. You got a bunch of stuff. And I love his shirt. He's the Mandalorian. I'm a Star Wars guy. Yes, ma'am. Plumeria. Oh.
I have a question. So, what is your overall recommendation? To leave them in the ground through the winter or to move them out?
So that's here in Houston, right?
Yeah.
Y'all got snow last year, didn't you? All right, so the question was about plumerias. I love plumerias. Plumerias have a special place in my heart. My wife and I, we were married on a sailboat, and our cousin presented us with leis. So, of course, I love plumerias. And I actually have a funny story about plumerias. Dallas, Home Depot, I think that was where I was at, started selling plumerias. I was freaked out. I went and bought two. My wife loves symmetry. When I got those two home, trying to do too much, the pot was too heavy. Got one in one hand, one in the other. I'm like, oh, let me sit one down. Wind was blowing 20 miles an hour. I go take the one down. I'm coming back up the hill. The other one topples over, snaps in half. Broke my heart. I was like, no. And guess what? The awesome thing about plumerias, just like all these propagation we're talking about, you take that stalk, put it in some soil, a little bit of rooting hormone, boom. Now that 2 became 4. So to answer your question, can you pull plumerias up here in Houston, or do you leave them in during the winter? In Dallas, I grow mine in pot because I get really cold out there. I mean, I think one time we dropped all the way to 15 degrees. Even though you guys got snow last year, it's kind of an anomaly. It doesn't happen often. But this is a situation where you're going to kind of watch the climate and see if it starts trending. But if that one-off year of snow and everything doesn't happen again, let's say you can leave them in the ground, but just make sure you insulate your soil around that root ball. So either take you some straw or some hay, or at least 2 to 3 inches of mulch to protect that root ball in the soil, and you should be fine. Because even when you guys got the snow, it wasn't that long. So it's only a short duration of real frost that you were worrying about. So yeah, I think we can take a gamble and just leave them directly in the soil. Great question about plumerias. I love plumerias. Yes, ma'am. Let's see.
It's a violet sheet.
It's a violet. Let's see. Don't want to pull it out your bag because I don't want to mess up your foliage. We're talking about propagation. And specifically on this plant here, I don't see any spots where we have that growth of tissue or we have those nodes that we were talking about. So I would wait until you see if you get like another side branch going off that you could experiment around with. Because I'm fully committed to experimenting. You guys can still hear me okay, right? I'm fully committed to experimenting and trying things out. I'm not going to say no, it can't be propagated, but I'm going to say have enough of the parent plant in case the experiment fails. You still have your original plant. So you have a shoot that's forming over here off to the side down here. I would say once that gets about good 5 to 6 inches, flip it and give it a shot. Yeah, give it a shot. I'm all about experimentation.